Na 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 na. It's that time of the year, or that time of the 4 years where the World Cup is on, and I'm just absolutely having the greatest time of my life right now in terms of sporting events. Today, I had a video that I wanted to bring to you guys. My dog did not snore this whole time. He starts snoring as soon as I start making this YouTube video. Do you mind? He's kind of camera shy, so he likes to stay out the camera. He kind of just sits right here and you can barely see him. Anyways, look, I decided that I wanted to make a YouTube video that was a little bit different than I've made in the past in terms of actually covering the game and talking about the game. I wanted to talk about Battlefield 2042 and give you guys my thoughts and opinions on these free weekends that they've been having, and you know, the whole thing with the Xbox Game Pass and the developers saying, oh, it's a better game now. Let me be the judge of that. All right, let us gamers judge that. You just sit in the back. All right, we don't trust you all because you're saying it now. You also said last year probably that the game was good. We'll judge that. So yes, while I will be talking about what my experience on Battlefield 2042 over the weekend was, more importantly, I had some other things that I wanted to talk about, and I didn't want to just label this Battlefield 2042 whatever title it may be from the gameplay. My YouTube channel has always been something that's kind of deeper, and we look at the deeper issues that underlie things and not just the surface level, because a lot of YouTubers make videos on why the game's bad, why the game's good, why they're not good, why they're bad, and the whole development process and what it means to actually be a good or a bad video game. But for us, we really go under the hood and look at what the mechanisms of it is, and then we even go beyond that. We look at the creators of it, I guess you would say their viewpoint and their paradigm, and then we go beyond that. We kind of talk about things on a spiritual level, because of course this channel is not just a video game channel. It's a gospel promotion channel, if that makes sense. It kind of seems like I'm a shill or something, but it's not. I promise, it's really not. I'm a shill for Christ. I'm definitely a shill for Christ. You can definitely say that. All right, so pretty much what we're talking about today is the state of first-person shooter games. And I've said this for a while. We've discussed this many times, that I really don't think that first-person shooters are at a point right now where they can really even be played. It's actually crazy how bad it is. But I don't want to state that and say that in the most negative tone, because I feel like the worst that they have gotten, I've also seen some really good games that have flown under the hood, and some really good ideas that have really flown under the radar of a lot of people. And I think when things get really bad, you really start to see who is great and who is good and who really survives in the pressure. And I think right now we're going to start seeing. So one of the things that I've had a big issue with was how gamers and how gaming companies really weren't catching the problems of video games on releases. And since then, a lot of people have made videos on this. I talked about this a few years ago with Modern Warfare 2019, and I've kind of strayed away from it and kind of just chilled on it. But now I have a more and a bigger concern, and that simply is the free-to-play model. The free-to-play model to me is just killing games. I understand that a lot of people are going to say, yo, it's free, man. You really can't beat free. I get it. I do. And I kind of do sympathize with that. And that's why I haven't really made this video yet or come out and really talked about it, because I just didn't know how to address it, and I needed some more education on it, because free games can be great. I mean, when they're free to play. You can get on, you can play at any time, you can have fun, and when there's no pay to win schemes in it, it is a joy to play. COD Mobile is one of those instances for me. Yes, the microtransactions are really harsh, I guess you could say, and some people could label it play to win with some of the guns and stuff, with the iron sights changing and things of that nature. But for the most part, man, I mean, that's as close as you're gonna get to, you know, a free game not really being pay to win in the mobile market. So I think COD Mobile really kind of, you know, walks that line very fine, even though some of the monetization with the skins and stuff are absolute crazy. Like, I would never pay for some of the stuff that you see, but I mean, at the same time, guys, it's a free-to-play game, and most of it, I wouldn't even say the game's pay to win, honestly. I don't think that there's guns in the game that give you a distinct advantage when you get them or when you buy them. I don't think that is at all the case. You can level up these weapons and still compete no matter what. But I do understand the mythics and everything going on in that game. But when you look across the gaming landscape, can we honestly say that any of the new Call of Duties, the Halos, or anything are better than their old counterparts that were $60? No, and I mean, that's to be expected, right? If a game is free versus a game is $60, you would understand and say, hey, you know, worse or better than the old one. And that would be, you know, a conversation that you could have. For instance, Halo Infinite obviously is a lot worse than its $60 counterpart in Halo 3 when it came out, but Halo Infinite's multiplayer is free to play. It really wasn't much for them to really come out and say, like, you actually had to give them a couple passes for a couple months. But that's the problem, is that these developers know that, and they know that they're going to rake in, if not the same amount of money, more money from making it free to play. And that's the problem. It would be different if they were like, look, we're just making a free to play aspect of the game, and then we want to stick and stay true to our word in creating a good Halo game, or Battlefield 2042, for instance. Hey, we want to come out and make a quality Battlefield experience, but here's a free-to-play aspect of it, or a free-to-play way. You know, it would make sense, but they're not doing that. What they're doing is they're just saying, look, if we put free-to-play on it, we can mess up and take as much time as we want. Or even worse, if we slap beta on it, we can just drop it and be like, oh, it's just a beta. Oh my gosh, you know, that we don't get crucified or ridiculed for putting out a half-baked product. And I don't think that that's just something that's restricted to the FPS market. I think that's gaming as a whole. But at the same time, I really want to state that video games have never had this aspect to them up until about 4 or 5 years ago, where it was just capitalized on the market. Yes, at some point, you're obviously going to have to make money. You're going to have to generate revenue. You're going to have to do all that stuff. I get that, okay? I really do get that. But the problem that I'm stating here is beyond the market and beyond the necessity to generate revenue. We've already reached those points where gaming companies are now raking in more money than they ever have, but they're making worse products. And the reason for that, and always is going to be, and it simply is, and I think that this is a real world issue, is not greed. And while greed does play a similar role and similar factor into this, I think the role that really plays here is envy. And I really do see this. If you take a look at the gaming market, whenever somebody does something new and creative, it's like everybody else has to hop on that bandwagon. You guys remember when Fortnite came out? Fortnite was the first of its genre, really. One of the first free-to-play battle royales that really did something great. And with the battle pass system, made Fortnite feel like it was always updating something. The season model was great. Fortnite really set the paradigm for what was going to happen over the next few months and the next few years, and even probably up to the next decade in gaming. And soon as that happened, it felt like everybody envied them and envied what they were able to do and what they did from a creative standpoint, and they just hopped right on it. Call of Duty, PUBG, everybody pretty much adapted that thought process that Fortnite did. And while some of them pretty much already had their BRs or were working on their BRs when Fortnite came out, it still was a plan in their head to kind of copy and paste what they had. And that's just the issue. You see that so much throughout the gaming landscape, and first-person shooters, single players, anything. You see that across YouTube, you see across anything, is whenever you see somebody having too much success or their own success, instead of coming out and going, hey, you know, what we're going to do today is we're going to create our own mold and our own take on what we see this genre to be. And don't get it twisted. It's fine to look at somebody else's art and be inspired by it. For instance, when I first started YouTube, FaZe Jev was my inspiration kind of, and how I wanted to make YouTube videos. I love the cut comms, those type of videos. You know, then I simply moved on to a different process where I got new inspiration, but I was always trying to find my own way of expressing myself through those things. We could all debate on whoever made the first YouTube video. We're technically all just copying them. But at the same level, you know, we're all able to make it our own. And that's the whole thing with gaming that just seems so lackluster in terms of first-person shooters. Now, in single-player games, you always have this kind of freedom that you're always going to have this staple that people are going to make single-player games just because they love single-player games. And the notion that EA came out with a few years back that they said nobody plays single-player games no more, we all knew that was dumb, and they were proven wrong yet again. In fact, one of their best-selling games in recent memory, Jedi Fallen Order, is a single-player game. You know what I mean? So I always thought this notion was just deeper than greed, and for a long time I really thought it's just greed. You know, greed is just run the world. People are going to be greedy. It's not really much you can change about it. Yes, you can fight and change a paradigm or something, but no matter what, until Christ comes back, this is pretty much how things are going to go. And it's probably going to go mostly for that way. But then you have people like me and other content creators who are starting to gain this reputation of not really fighting back against things. And I always have said this. I'm not really fighting back against EA, Activision, or any of them. I don't care. If they make a shit video game and it's not good, I'm not going to play it. Instead, what I'm going to focus on is I'm going to critique the game so that it can get better if they want to improve the game, or I'm just going to simply go play a different video game. I'm cool if I have to play Minecraft for the rest of my life. Do I want to do that all the time? No, but if I have to keep my enjoyment for video games, I will. It's Minecraft. I have no problems going back to Java Edition Minecraft back when it was like 1.4 and just playing that the rest of my life. I can do that. I don't want to do that, but I can do it. So my whole problem and my whole issue has never really stemmed from trying to push back at these developers or these publishers. No, on the contrary, I'm trying to push for ideas. I find it more effective in our lives to focus on joy rather than to focus on sorrow. That doesn't mean you don't have to have any sorrow in your life at any point. It means that when you have these sorrowful moments, we have to be able to turn them into joy, or else there's no point in having these things. Everybody always says you have to have joy, you have to have sorrow. To an extent, you don't need to keep having depression in your life if you've already learned why depression isn't a good thing. You can go and move on to the joyful aspects of your life. In fact, that's what we should be doing, especially as Christians and people who are trying to make not just the world better, but make the people around them and our life stances a lot better. And so with these video games, I've always stated that it's like, look, sometimes I will be very critical and I will rant, because sometimes ranting is fun. It's enjoyable. It's something that you like to do. Sometimes it's necessary. All right. Sometimes it's necessary. However, I don't want to make that always the core focus of my channel, just like raging. Hey, if the game is bad and it's making you mad, let that out. All right. Don't be sad. You like that? You like that? You like that? I know what's going on. You want to take that avenue to where you're not really harping on something and you're not getting too, up in arms about it. And that's how I felt a long time with pushing for games, is that I wanted to push to see the games get better. I did this with Cyberpunk 2077. I've talked about this with Apex. I've talked about this with the Titanfall series going forward. Almost every game that I reviewed, I've offered this type of criticism, and I try to stay core to those values, if that makes sense. I really do try to do that. And with Battlefield 2042 is just another reminder of exactly how I feel about the first-person shooter industry, and it just seems like we continually have to go through this. Apex, COD, Valorant, and Battlefield 2042, and you can pretty much name any other game other than a few. It seems like these games are on the right track. Like, you have those people you can tell who are working on this, who are like, okay, we have a good notion and it's something good to build off of. Battlefield 2042 did not come in with just terrible concepts across the board. Yes, the specialist system is trash. Yes, the maps aren't as great. Yes, there's no server browser for the main game. But Portal and other aspects of this game were pretty cool. The ability to be able to use a wingsuit was pretty cool for a little bit, and so that just became absolutely annoying and just didn't work. And then you also had the notion of the different types of weapons and how you could customize your weapon in-game. I thought that was a cool idea. It really added something unique to the game that we have never seen before. But the issue that we continually run into is that we continually see that these game developers are being overridden with microtransactions. And that's what just simply becomes the core focal point. It's not that microtransactions are initially the start of what they want to build the game around, and sometimes that is the purpose. But we start to see that microtransactions normally aren't just something to complement the game. There's something to compete against other video games simply because they envy them. Battlefield 2042 did not need the Battle Pass system like Call of Duty did. It didn't need any of that. Battlefield could have simply survived microtransactions and all of that stuff that it had simply by having cosmetics that refreshed or went towards what the old games used to be about. They simply could have did that. For instance, you could have had characters and other stuff as bundles and packs from old games in Portal, and I would have bought it and other people would have bought it. As long as you provided enough free content for us to keep doing things, you would have seen no problems. Could you imagine they would have been like, hey, the Russians and China from Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 3 are now available in Portal, for 99 cents. You can have these things for 99 cents. However, we're going to give you a new map, more characters, more customization with these things, but these packs are limited to these type of things. Nobody would have really had a problem with that, because it would have been like, okay, we're getting free stuff. On top of that, we're also getting some, customizable things. Now, I'm not saying that's the route they should have went down. There's some discussion there. We always can come to agreement. They went the other route as other games, and that's where I'm getting at, man. It just feels like everybody's at each other's throats all the time. It just feels like Call of Duty now, for instance, is at the throats of their community. It just feels like the community developers and the publishers, they're all just at each other's throats constantly. And it's like, why do we have to go there? And it feels the exact same way with Battlefield 2042. Why is there no class system? Why is there no server browser? Why do we have to wait for a scoreboard? Why is the game just now feeling like it should have came out, or doesn't even feel like it should have came out yet? It's starting to feel like it should have came out. These are things that just issues continually persist. And I just feel like in the first person shooter genre, we see that instance. And I'm not here to fight against that type of stuff. I'll leave that to the Bible and let the Bible explain that for us and let us understand why it's like that. But for me, the most important thing is to understand that there's envy out here, and we need to address the topic before we can improve from it. And the simple way for us to improve from it is to stop looking at what everybody else has and start looking at what we're grateful for. And that's that simple. For the longest time, I wanted to have millions of subscribers when I was growing up in high school. I wanted millions of subscribers with all the attention on me and all that stuff. And then I was able to attain almost all of that, and I wasn't as happy, and I wanted something else that I seen somebody else having. Until I really learned, and I'm still learning this, by the way, to love and care about my life and the stuff that's in my life and take care of that first, I'm not going to enjoy the other stuff that I'm going to get. I have to take care of this subscribers, take care of this growing community that I have, and take care of the people around me, my family and stuff, and most importantly, take care of my body and my connection to the Lord, which is not always perfect. I need to work on that and get better, but we're not going to learn or get any better if we can't even do that first. And one of the things, and one of the quotes, and one of the greatest things I've ever heard in my life was J. Cole saying, "Love yours," right? We've all heard that song at this point, "Love yours." And to me, it just feels like every community looks at a different community. The Valorant community looks at the CSGO community. The CSGO looks at Valorant. Call of Duty looks at Battlefield. You know what I mean? It's a mess. It's a mess. When are we just going to try and make a game and an identity that's core to the belief that we built? Titanfall, for instance, is like, we built Titanfall. We built that stuff. And while, yes, they're not making a new game, Apex is still a proponent of the Titanfall community. Why is it that the Titanfall community is at war with Apex? We don't need to be at war with each other. Why does the Warzone community need to be at war with the Call of Duty community? And why does the casual Call of Duty community need to be at war with the competitive Call of Duty community? Nobody wins when that happens. And like the Lord says, a house divided, it shall not stand. And we're starting to see that with a lot of our gaming companies and a lot of our games that we truly love. Guys, we got to come together. Right? As a community, we got to come together. Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, whatever it is, the comp scene, the casual scene cannot be at war with each other. Single player campaign players can't be at war with the multiplayer players. It just can't happen. We're not going to get anything from that instance. We're not going to grow. We have got to come together and understand that we don't need to envy and hate each other and look at other games or look at even things within ourselves and be envious of it. Enjoy what we have, see how we can improve it, take inspirations from others, and then see where we can draw a middle ground. And I know that's, pretty much a lot of people are going to say impossible. But like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day. And yet it grew into one of the biggest empires of all time. And if Israel can come back 2,000 years later after being disbanded, I don't see why we can't get these video games to really go back to how they used to be. It's a long shot. And I'm not trying to be nostalgic here. I think video games have improved for the most part. But at the same time, man, I think that we really need to draw inspiration from what we used to have and how we've built these communities instead of trying to fight each other and bicker all the time. And that goes for me too, man. I'm a big proponent sometimes on Twitter and other social media networks and on here. I've just wanted to rip a game sometimes, but sometimes I got to do it. Sometimes you got to do it. Just like Nate Shaw did the other day with Activision. Sometimes you got to do it. I don't know. Like I said, this is my opinion. This is my take on it. I try to be as rational as possible. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree with me or you disagree with me. I'm always here to listen to what you got to say. Bless up, ladies and gentlemen. As always, God bless. Thank you for coming to this YouTube video. And Battlefield 2042 is still not a good game. I do not recommend you playing it. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. But right now, it's what...